Welcome to Betting on Success, a podcast that dives into the future of gaming with a focus on cashless technology. Hosted by Mark Morton, aka Morty. From cashless innovations to incredible career stories, this is where gaming professionals stay ahead. Betting on Success is brought to you by your friends at Marker Tracks and Coin, leading the way in cashless gaming.
Welcome and thank you for being here today. I have the honor of having one of the true difference makers.
I don't know about that, but
in our industry.
Scraping the bottom of the barrel, apparently.
Yeah. Not only in our industry, but in our community. The Executive Vice President, Chief Operating Officer for Konami Gaming, Mr. Tom Jingoli.
Oh, it's great to be here. I love seeing you without hair, too.
Do you like the look?
No. Actually,
No. My dog attacked me when I got home on Saturday. She didn't know who I was.
It's a great cause. I did it last year, as you well know.
Yeah.
And every day I looked in the mirror and said, I just don't know if my hair's growing back. And my wife used to laugh at me. She says, it's going to grow back. Don't worry about it. So,
yeah. Well,
but great cause. Glad you did it.
Yeah. Well, it's super important to me, obviously. Yeah. You know, between my wife, Shelly, battling and beating it.
And everybody. I mean, just you know more people that have the disease than don't.
100%.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't, it's sad. And when Inkster, who pushes all of us to do it, which he does a great job. I had my first grandchild a couple years ago and childhood cancer. I couldn't even imagine. It's hard enough to go through cancer with an adult like you went through. But could you imagine if it was, a 2-year-old kid or a 1-year-old kid or something like that? I couldn't even imagine the families and what they deal with.
No,
so it's a great cause.
Yeah, it is. It's a phenomenal event. Event. Okay, so I got to talk to you about a couple of things.
Go ahead. Fire away.
All right. So you have more nicknames than any other individual in our business, right? So let me go over a couple of them. TJ, Tommy, Jingo.
My mother's the only one that calls me Tommy, by the way. Okay. She's not alive anymore, so my wife can call me Tommy, but nobody calls me Tommy. But go ahead.
My personal favorite.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead.
The big Italian.
Uh-huh.
But now you have your personal favorite. Papa Jingo.
My grandson calls me Papa Jingo. Yeah, that's my favorite. Actually, Jingo was my nickname forever.
Yeah.
And I moved to Vegas 30 years ago and never thought it would, make it out here.
Right.
And then somebody, one of my friends came out and called me Jingo, and then it stuck, and so all of that. But the big Italian.
Yes. That's my favorite.
God rest his soul. Yeah. Our other bald friend, Steve Lehman, was the one who dubbed me that years and years ago. So a lot of people call me that too. But we have Steve Lehman to thank for that. The gift that keeps giving.
Exactly, correct. Yeah. So tell me what it's like to be a grandpa.
It's been amazing. Yeah. Obviously, I didn't have children of my own. I had 2 kids through marriage. Sean had 2 kids, Jillian and Anthony, who are just amazing kids that, my stepkids, I don't call them stepchildren. They don't call me stepdad. So when we, had Jillian had the grandchild, it was truly amazing, right? He was the first little guy, and I have 11 nieces and nephews that are always around, but just unbelievable. Of course, I spoil them like crazy and give them back, and Sean and I are just enjoying every chance we get to spend time with him, and they only live a couple miles around the corner, so it's great. It's been a lot of fun, and he's at that age now. He just started going to preschool. Yeah. He goes 3 days a week, so it's pretty funny, and communicating and talking and everything. It's fun to be around. I got to watch my language around him because he picks up everything I say, but it's pretty funny. Yeah. It's been a lot of fun.
So you grew up in New Jersey?
I grew up in a little town, Lawrenceville, New Jersey, which is kind of in between Trenton, which is the state capital of New Jersey, and Princeton. Yeah. Princeton University, a little small town there. I went to high school, a place called the Hun School of Princeton, which is a private school in Princeton, and left. Basically spent my whole life there until came out here in 1994 to go to graduate school at UNLV.
So I want to talk about your career at the major athletic power of the East Coast. You actually played baseball at
Bethany College. I went to a small school in the foothills of West Virginia called Bethany College. I played baseball there, Division III baseball school, really small school. About 45 minutes from Pittsburgh. Yeah. If you look at a map in the northern tip of West Virginia, there was a golf course there where you could half the holes were in West Virginia, the other half were in Pennsylvania. Across the street, you're in Ohio. Famous, Steubenville, Ohio was right across the way. Where they filmed, Tom Cruise filmed all the right moves, like high school. I never was exposed to that until I went there and saw this, Friday Night Lights, before it was Friday Night Lights, and high school football games on Friday night, the towns would just shut down. Like there was nothing open. Gas stations, everything closed, and everybody was at these high school football games. And it was just amazing to say. It was like eye-opening experience for me.
Yeah, and you grew up in a very traditional Italian family.
I did. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, in New Jersey.
In New Jersey, father had a construction company. Checked all the boxes. Italian construction company. You knew my parents. You met my parents.
Two of the all-time greats. They're two of the all-time greats. Yep.
Everybody over for dinner on Sunday with homemade gravy and, the whole 9 yards. So, yeah. Spent time down in Long Beach Island. We grew up, lived in Central Jersey. Everybody got, people go down the shore. We call it the shore. Yeah. Down the shore in the summertime. And it was great. I was just back there actually last weekend. So I still get back there quite a bit for work. And my brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews are all still in the area.
So growing up in New Jersey in the 80s, you had probably had some characters that you were exposed to, potentially.
Yeah, I guess my claim to fame is I grew up with the Menendez twins, which is interesting.
Yeah.
We joke about that quite a bit. Yep, good friends. My parents were actually very good friends with the parents.
Yeah.
They lived in Princeton, and we grew up playing soccer together for probably the better part of my youth.
Yeah.
That was just crazy when that whole thing happened, and a lot of us got called potentially to be, witnesses and all kinds of things. I never had to go, so thank God I didn't have to do that. I tried to see him one time in L.A. and
good thing you did, right?
No, I didn't have. They wouldn't let me in to see him, but yeah, it was crazy. I mean, that was just for a little town of Princeton. That was like shocking.
Yes,
they went to a rival school, Princeton PDS, Princeton Day School. Probably not happy that I mentioned that on a podcast. Just literally around the corner. But we grew up playing soccer together with Lyle and Eric, and they were big tennis players and. Crazy.
So you graduate from Bethany.
Yep.
And then what did you think you were going to do?
Again, family construction business. It never really interested me. My brother's still involved in that business with my cousins. We had a family friend. His name was Bill McElroy. He was the chief of the New Jersey Division of Gaming Enforcement. And about that time, I tell the story. I said that, I thought they were in charge of putting stock in the ponds back in New Jersey. Like gaming, I know what it was. And so in between my sophomore and junior year of college, when I came home, my dad said, Bill wants to hire you at the DGE as a summertime, as an agent. And I'm like, why? I'm going down the beach. He goes, well, you're not going down the beach this year. You can go down the beach on the weekends and do whatever, but you'll be doing some things in Atlantic City. And that's how I got exposed to the gaming industry, to be truthfully honest with you. And so I did an internship there, like I said, between my sophomore and junior year. It was great. Got exposed to the industry. I thought it was really cool. And when I graduated, I was planning on taking the summer off, spending it down Long Beach Island at the shore.
Shores. Yeah, okay.
Before I started working. And that was the plan. And that was the plan. And then Bill called me and said, hey, we're going to be hiring like 6 agents. Would you consider coming back? And I was like, yeah, I think I actually would. And so, it's a state-run agency. And I worked there for 4 years. And, still have a lot of good friends that work there. And again, that was my exposure. Bill McElroy exposed me to the industry. And I fell in love with it. And I was just trying to figure out, the best path to kind of get out of what I was doing and get into the other side of the industry. And I met a gentleman named Dennis Gomes, God rest his soul too.
Yep.
Became a pretty good friend, and he had worked at the DGE years ago and then got out. At the time, he was the CEO for Steve Wynn here in Las Vegas and was moving back to Atlantic City. And he told me about UNLV and this program, the Gaming Institute, and William F. Harrod College of gaming. And basically, there's like a 2-year cooling off period. You can't go work for a licensee and within a 2-year period of working at the gaming control board. So, what the heck? I checked out the program. It was great. Dennis wrote a letter for me to get in. So I worked for about 4 years at the DG. This was around '94. And I came out to Vegas to go to graduate school at UNLV. I didn't know one person in Las Vegas.
Right.
Not one person. And I always just assumed I was going to go back to Atlantic City.
Yeah.
And never did.
And I want to stop there just for a second, because for somebody to have a successful career as you have, you need people in your life to mentor you and lead you down the right path. It sounds like Dennis was one of those.
Yeah, Dennis.
Who else?
Well, obviously my father, right? Mother and father, been the foundation of all that. There was another gentleman named Shannon Bybee, who is no longer with us. He was running the Gaming Institute at UNLV at the time. He worked for Steve Wynn, senior executive. He was on the board of the Claridge in Atlantic City. So when I started at UNLV, there's a lot of different paths you can go down. Obviously, I wanted to be involved in gaming. There's people that do hospitality. They get into food and beverage. It's really an amazing institution, amazing school. And so I kind of latched on to Shannon. He made me like his graduate assistant, which is, slang for his donkey, right? I did all his donkey work. But he exposed me to, so many people in the industry. And I couldn't thank him enough for it. And so he kind of got me down that, path and made sure, when there was internships and things available that, involved gaming, he thought it was important for me to get exposed to some of that. And I did. And, with the background that I had being a former regulator, I think that clearly helped. So I think the path I went down, seemed to work out. And, Shannon was really, really good to me, certainly in the 2 years that I spent at UNLV. And again, intention I thought was probably to go back because my whole family was back, and everybody used to joke I'd be the only person in my family that wouldn't move west of the Delaware River. Right. Yeah. And then I moved to Las Vegas and never went back.
Yeah, and your dad was a special man.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, he's a dad. Same like your father, Mark. He was always there. I played sports. Drove me everywhere. I always remember, one thing he always said to me, don't ever forget where you came from. They were happy that I was, building a life out in Las Vegas. They came out all the time. They loved to come out here, just always said, don't ever forget where you came from. Yeah. And, I was born in Trenton, New Jersey, so I never forget where I came from. So that's why, I try and get back there as much as I can to see family. And I have a whole group of friends that, we all grew up together, went to school together. Still really close. They come out here. I go back there. So it's good. Like I said, I was just back there this past weekend. Had a lot of fun.
And your dad's birthday would have been?
Today is my dad's birthday, actually. It would have been 98. He would have been 98 today.
Yeah.
I sent you a picture, actually.
I know. Like he could have been a guest star on The Sopranos. Yeah, that outfit.
Well, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
He could have done it. The other person that I had an opportunity to meet was your mom. Mm-hmm. Your mom was
nuts.
All-time great.
All-time great, Irish.
Yeah.
She would have been, she's a little bit younger. She would probably been in her early 90s. She lived a great life after my dad passed. And both my parents, I was thankful that, went peacefully, didn't suffer, lived a good life. Certainly people are living into their 90s now and healthy. Guy played golf the other day with a guy who was 86 years old.
Right.
And the guy was unbelievable. I was like, I was like, wow. I mean, that's still a long way to go.
There's hope for us.
There's hope. I don't know.
There's hope. There's hope for us.
I think, unfortunately, Morty, I think you and I put a lot of miles on we got a lot of miles on our tires. So I don't know if that's in the
cards for us. Yeah. You talked about UNLV.
Yeah.
That's an important institution for you. I know you've been super involved there.
I have over the years, in a lot of different things. I served on the board of trustees for a while. I got involved with athletics. Bill Paulus, another person who has been very influential, in my gaming career. Bill's had that effect on a lot of people. I know you're very close with him too. Obviously, Bill is everything UNLV, so I got involved in a lot over there. I think it's, it's important. I think Don Snyder's the one that said, you got to have. A good community needs a good university, and they go hand in hand. And I think UNLV's done a reasonably good job of that. There's some really good people over there. some really good schools. Obviously, the hotel school is amazing. The law school has done some incredible things in the 25 years that it's been there. Now they have a medical school. So it's just, I think it's important. And I think some of the athletics are, athletics is so different now, right? It's just between NIL and all these things that are going on, and Power 5 schools, you have the haves and the have-nots. So it's they need all the support they can get. And there's some talk about hopefully them maybe moving into a better conference, which I think will help.
Pac-12 maybe?
Yeah,
or Pac-2 or
whatever they took. It's interesting. They took those schools from, the Mountain West, and one of them wasn't UNLV. And I certainly think that, UNLV has a lot more to offer than some of those other schools that got in there. So you would think that, there's an opportunity there. Somebody between, the football team just got ranked in the top 25 for the first time in the history of the school.
Unbelievable.
Barry Odom does an amazing job. I think Kevin Kruger does a great job with basketball. And, they're the two main drivers, obviously. But, you look at the high schools in this town. You grew up here, you played school here, not just Bishop Gorman, but the amount of Division I student athletes, male and female, that are being recruited by top schools out of Las Vegas, is unbelievable, right? And it's
no question.
Hopefully the university can kind of figure that out, because at the end of the day, unfortunately, it's a business anymore. It comes down to money, and it's hard. In the days you grew up here, in the great Rebel days, like you had players that you followed, and they they stayed here for a couple of years, and you kind of built up to that. Now you get kids that, and I get it. The quarterback from UNLV last year, you got like an enormous offer to go to USC.
Yeah.
How do you tell the kid no? It's hard to.
And to do that. And you were inducted or honored to be inducted in the Hall of Fame
of the not athletic hotel school.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a significant honor.
It was nice. I was honored that they chose me for that years ago.
And so you took that education, which obviously suited you well and did you well, and your first stop out of
school, I worked at Station Casinos. John, the original big Italian, John Pasqualato, who you know.
Yep.
Dear friend of mine, I've known for all the years I've been out here. Me, him, and John Pucci. Seems like all my friends are Italian, right? Sorry, but we all kind of ran together. I worked there for a few years, and then somebody named Mark Morton and Doug Sanderson came a calling, and I went to work at Sega Gaming.
Yeah, that was.
And you hired me.
I did. Well, I had interviewed probably 4 or 5 other compliance potential officers for our company, and you were not the typical compliance officer. So,
well, thanks, Morty.
Yeah, no, I did, and I remember running to Doug going, "We got to hire this guy." This is.
You only hired me because I knew James Maida, and you were having trouble with GLI. I think it's probably at the time, but I loved working at stations. It was a great time. Obviously, there's the Fertitta family. You talk about people that do, kind of like Gary Ellis, right? There's a few families in this town that have gone over and above the Fertittas, Gary, Ellis, and there's obviously a few others that really call Vegas home and have done everything, kind of off the court issues, and do things and donations and stuff like that. The manufacturing side always intrigued me.
Yep.
Stations was pretty much at the time Nevada centric. We had some properties in Missouri. And so I was kind of interested in the manufacturing side because they were selling machines all over the world, as you know. And so I thought Sega was the right opportunity. It was a small company trying to grow, and we did grow. And I spent, that was probably 98? That sound right?
Yeah, that's right.
97, 98?
Yeah.
And stayed there until I was there for a week, and then you left, of course.
It's kind of typical, right? Standard operating procedure.
Morty hired me, was there for 5 minutes and left. That's okay.
Greener pastures. No
problem.
Ahead. Yeah.
We did throw a heck of a G2E party.
We did. One of the all-time greatest G2E parties. Yes. Yeah. We can't talk about that on the show, though. Yeah, we can't.
And stayed there until like the end of 2002, 2003, at which time Sega decided they really didn't want to proceed in the gaming space, and we sold our assets to Shufflemaster.
Yep.
At the time, we had the original with the horse racing machine, as you know, but then we got into the table games with the virtual blackjack dealers and all that stuff, and then Shuffle came in, and acquired those assets. Brooke Dunn was kind of the leader of that. Mark Yosoloff at the time was there. There was an opportunity for me to potentially stay on with the company, but I had met Satoshi Sakamoto and Steve Sutherland, who were at Konami at the time. SS was the new CEO. Steve was the COO at the time. And we had a mutual lawyer by the name of Tony Cabot, who was a famous gaming attorney in town. He was like, hey, these guys at Konami might be looking for somebody. And so I met with them. So I thought the opportunity there, similar to when I started at Sega, Konami had just really broken into the space. They only had about, maybe 15 licenses when I started there. Yep. And they had the key ones. So they had Nevada. They had some key licenses in Canada where they were moving product. Tribal, Verona was one of the first ones. That's where we launched our first games was in Verona. So I thought it was a good opportunity to kind of get on the ground floor, and I made the right decision. That's 23 years ago. So I'm like 23 years at Konami.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Started out in compliance and have had
Were you the highest paid compliance officer in the history of the industry? Maybe?
No, not even close.
Not
maybe in yen, but not in U.S. dollar.
No, okay.
So that was a good opportunity, and it was literally a mile down the road. You remember the old Sega building on Industrial, which is now Frank Sinatra Boulevard? Konami was just a half a mile down the road. Our administrative offices were right there by the one side of the bridge on Warm Springs, and the other side was manufacturing. Yeah. And when I started there, we probably had, we might have had, 30 employees, 40 employees.
Yeah, and that's not an easy business to break into, right? I mean, that success is traditionally tied to performance of the product. So you've got multiple aspects.
Yeah.
When you started the process, what was the focus?
There was a lot back in those days. Then myself, Steve, and again SS sat down, and we were trying to acquire key licenses that we could drive product. Yeah, like that's what it was all about at the time, and that driving product to the floor is not the easiest thing in the world to do. Darren Huntsberger was the VP of sales at the time, so Darren and I had a lot of fun times there, just going around and picking off different licenses, and they all just kind of started to fall into place. But the first few years were tough. I mean, we it was challenging. You had to invest a lot of money, as you well know. To kind of get to that point. Our systems business was just okay. They had acquired a systems business a few years earlier. Steve was kind of the point person on that. And, Mr. Sakamoto came in one day to Steve and I and said, I think we need to build a new building. We need to get out of this office over here, office over there. We need to show the industry that we're a real player. We're a real player. We're here to stay. We're competing against the IGTs of the world. This is mergers and acquisitions, we're competing against the IGTs of the world and the Bally's of the world. They're all these big buildings, and they're here for the long haul. And we put this thing together on Sunset. We bought some dirt over there, and it's the same building that we're in right now. We built the building, and kind of the business really, not because of the building, but it was certainly one of the key factors. Yeah. It also helped us recruiting, wise. You build a nice facility, and it's a beautiful building. And it helps us recruit, and then we built, and then we expanded, and so now we got to where we're at now, where we have, roughly 500,000 square feet. It's about 250,000 manufacturing and 250,000 office, and it was great, and the business kind of just started to grow organically. Yeah,
a reflection of you too. The quality of the people that you've hired over there has been key to the success, right?
No doubt. That's the only success that you have, right? Our number one asset is our team members. Yep. Obviously, gaming licenses are important in our business, right? But team members are more important. And our business, people recycle around, right? People move around. No offense, Marty.
No. Got it. None taken.
People move around, and we have people move around too, right? It's we're not perfect. Yeah. But I think it's a fun place to work. I think we do a really good job of advocating for the employees, and our pay scale and benefits are comparable to what's out there in the industry. And things are good. I think it's I tell people, I was just in an HR meeting before I came over here today with new recruits. It's a good time to be at Konami. feel like we're set up for a kind of a growth run here over the next several years.
And the uniqueness of having Japanese ownership, foreign ownership.
For sure. I mean, they're in the entertainment business.
Yep.
They've been in the entertainment business since 1969 when Kajimasa Kazuki founded the company. It started as a jukebox repair company.
Yeah.
Anybody who's been to Japan knows that karaoke and singing is, a key part of that. The first time I went over there, I had to do that. It was, as my father used to tell me, I couldn't carry a tune in a wheelbarrow, and he was right about that. I'm the worst singer ever. But so that's in their DNA, right? That's what they do, whether it was, arcade games or digital entertainment, video games. So for them, it was a natural progression to get into the gaming space. So, yeah, they're very interested in our business. They love the potential upside that's part of our business.
Yeah.
And do things a little bit differently, culturally wise here than it would be done, in Japan. But overall, we have, great support. Mr. Kazuki is still chairman of the company. Kimihiko Higashio is the CEO and president and representative director of the parent company now. He's been over here a few times, so they take great interest in helping us and supporting us. So it's good.
So you mentioned the system side of the business.
Yep.
That's the most. Anybody that's been in our business on the manufacturer side know getting traction there because it's such a big business decision.
Yeah.
Is very difficult. You guys have had tremendous success over the last 7 or 8 years with your systems business. Tell me what you think you guys do differently and why you've been able to achieve the success you had.
We get that question a lot. I mean, first I give Steve credit. He's the one who made the acquisition. That's probably a year before I started at Konami. It was Mike Britt. Is it Mike Britt? Tim Britt. He owned the company. He passed away. Tom Sukup, who I commonly refer to as the mad scientist at Konami, that's his baby. And so we still have so many people from that acquisition when we made in 2001 or 2 still work at the company, including Tom. He's the chief product officer. And, Steve had the vision that we needed to kind of pair the two together. But it took us a while. We had some key customers. Dottie's was our first, customer and still with us today.
Yeah.
Morty, you ask how we've grown. 2 years ago, we had 60,000 connections. Right, so we determine a connection, just like if there's a Dottie's and it has 15, that's 15 connections. Resorts World, 1,800, that's 1,800 connections. We had 60,000 connections 2 years ago. Today we have 135,000 connections. And, it's not like we went out and got some huge corporate account that had 40,000 machines. Our average install is probably around 1,700 machines. So we've built that business brick by brick, and it's sustainable. The system is scalable. Right? So I talk about we can put it in a restricted location in Nevada or, at Resorts World on the Strip or Fontainebleau on the Strip or the Stratosphere on the Strip. So it's scalable, right? We can sit down with anybody and show that. We don't force, maybe a little bit different than some of what our competitors do. We don't force our technology on the operator, right? We'll integrate to whatever you want. So if you want to use Bravo and you don't want to use our solution, great.
Right.
We'll integrate to that. And I think that was, one of the first ones. But, I'd be remiss if I didn't say the thing that, the one deal that really turned it around for us was Golden Entertainment. And the old ASEP properties, they made that acquisition. And that was really our first, it was not really, our first installation on the Strip was the Stratosphere with Golden, Steve Arcano, I know, Blake Sartini. But we had to make significant changes to our system in order to win that RFP. And a lot of it had to do with cage and credit and things that we just hadn't done in the past. And so to Tom Sukup's credit and the team's credit, they pivoted, they did all of that, and we were awarded that business. And, that was the one installation that we did. We joke about Jay Fennell was unbelievable during that. But we actually replaced all 3 systems at the same time when we did it. So we literally replaced, because ASEP had a couple different ones operating. Golden had a couple different ones operating. But it was all of it. It was, at the time, it was, Cygames, Aristocrat and IGT were all operating at their properties, and we consolidated all to Konami, and we did that. So when that happened, that was a big milestone for us, for sure. Certainly some other big ones, obviously Yamava, San Manuel was a big one, Morongo, in that space. Again, I just think the other thing we try and stay away from is custom development. That's not what we do. We've had to do some of that. We won the Carnival business. Some of that business is run a little bit differently, so we had to do some custom development for that. But the software, again, I use Dottie's as an example. The software that's running at Dottie's or at Jet at a restricted location is the same software that's running at Fontainebleau. Now, they might not be using all the bells and whistles,
right,
but it's the same version. So we try and keep everybody in our portfolio within 2 or 3 versions of software. We don't have 20 different versions of Synchros operating. We have a couple, and we try and upgrade that. And our customers like upgrades, and it's all about stability. And we guarantee stability, 99.9%, uptime, and we stand behind that. We will do nothing to go away from that, the stability side of it, because that's the most important thing. If the system doesn't, everybody wants bells and whistles. We want to sell you the bells and whistles,
right?
But we don't do that at a cost of hurting anything to do with the stability of the program.
So you mentioned Golden Entertainment as an accomplishment, right?
Yep.
So I want to move it to you. One personal accomplishment you're the most proud of, one professional accomplishment you're the most proud of.
I'd say on the professional side, in an industry where people do move around, and I'm not joking with you on that.
I know.
I do feel proud that I've stayed at Konami for 23 years.
Yeah.
And you don't see that a lot in our industry. And I didn't have people beating down my door to leave. But there's always opportunities to kind of move around. But I've stayed there for 23 years, and it's important to me. And people there are like my family. I've been there forever. Steve's been there longer than I have. Going on 23 years. I think Steve's probably 26 years. So you don't see that, and I think it's important that when you have stability at the higher level, at senior management level, it's important, and that resonates through the balance of the organization. People tend to move around. And that's okay. I don't begrudge people. People leave for different reasons.
Right.
Like I said, we're not perfect. But I think, when I look back on it, I think it's been pretty cool that, again, I've been there for 23 years, and I've kind of, I started out in compliance and did, a lot of different things in administration, and, and kind of moved around up to where I am today as the COO. So, I think, longevity and loyalty certainly means something.
So speaking of that, when I think of you, I think of that. I think of loyalty. I would tell you, having known you now for 25 years, your investment in people and your loyalty to your friends is one of the greatest strengths I see with you, Tom. So, personal accomplishment.
Yeah, God.
Not your handicap.
No. That's terrible right now. I'd have to say that Sean and I have really built, we have a really good life. We have an amazing family. The kids are great. Anthony, our son, and Jillian, the daughter, and son-in-law, Matt McKissick, who went to Boyd School of Law. All 3 of the kids went to UNR, which is a bit painful for me, obviously, right. But, it is what it is. We kind of have a little sibling rivalry, but, now we have a grandson now. It just, it puts it all into perspective that, been, working for as long as I have in the industry and with the company and all the things I've done. It's just nice to come home, and, we have a little place up in Tahoe that we, love, kind of a family house, and it's great for the kids and kind of everybody to kind of get together. So that's kind of important to me, to be honest with you. On a personal note, I would say that's probably my, main accomplishment. And, I didn't have a lot to do with it. Sean,
Right.
Sean raised the kids. I didn't. I came around when they were
Probably a good thing, too.
14 and probably 13. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to think I've had some influence in their life. They have a great father, so I'm not, I don't try and play that game either. But it's been, I think that, on the personal side of things, I would say that's been accomplishment. And Sean, the kids.
No,
and so
she's great. So, and that's one of the things I wanted to touch on too. The community is one of the things I started with today, and when I introduced you, and one of the things that's true about both you and Sean is your involvement in the community. I mean, there are very few couples as generous as you are. Why is that so important?
Well, I mean, you try and give back. I mean, you can always do more. You look at my career. It's like, look at her career.
Right.
Think about that. I mean, she's worked for Elaine Wynn for, I think it was 23 years. I mean, she started down at the Golden Nugget with Elaine when they had the only property they had was the Golden Nugget. She was there for 23 years, and then has worked for Frank Fertitta for 15. It's her 15th year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, again, when you talk about, patriarchs of Las Vegas, you talk about the Wynn family, you talk about the Fertitta family, they're at the top of the, right? I mean,
top of the food chain.
Adelsons, Gary L. I mean, there's a few families that have been here forever, but very few have done more than, those two. And that's who she's worked for her whole career. So, and they give back. So it kind of resonates, through that. And we try and give as much as we can. And sometimes it's, time, and sometimes it's writing a check, and sometimes it's help raising money. But it's important. Vegas is a small town.
Yeah.
It is, right? I mean, that. So it's important to give back, and there's a lot of great causes in this town, and we've picked a handful that we think's important to us, and we support those.
Yeah, the other thing that you've been super involved with, which I think has had a dramatic impact on our business, is AGEM. How did you get started?
So, when I first started at Konami, at the time, Steve was involved with AGEM, Association of Gaming Equipment Manufacturers. He was going over to do more with kind of the AGA, and I got involved. And at the time, Bob McMonagle was the first president.
Yep. Another all-timer.
The all-timer, right? And so I got involved in it back then. And at the time, Morty, you remember, that's back when there was like 25 trade shows.
Right.
And we were all sitting in a room saying, okay, guys, let's figure this out, because we're spending all this money. We're going all over the place. There's got to be, we need somebody kind of advocating for us as manufacturers. And I think that's how real AGEM was founded initially. And so I've been involved in that. I've been at Konami 23 years. I've been involved with AGEM for probably 22 of the 23 years, or 21 of the 22 years that I've been there. We were one of the more active members. We had a board seat, so I was involved in that regard. I served as president for 7 years, which was good. You kind of told me I should do that. I remember you telling me that. But it was great.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. And the one thing I love about AGEM is, we're all, as you know, incredibly competitive.
Yes.
As you know that, right? But we do a really, really good job of checking our competitive hats at the door when we get around the table and trying to figure out what's best for the industry. And in the 23 years I've been involved, there maybe have been two things that we weren't in alignment with, that we just stayed away from, which I think is really important.
So, all right, last question. We're getting up against it a little bit here. So where does Tom Jingoli see himself in 5 years?
I hope still at Konami doing what I'm doing today. Yeah. I love the job that I have right now. I enjoy meeting with customers and going out with the sales team and, trying to help drive business. And knowing that there's internal things that I have to balance that with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't see myself doing anything else other than what I'm doing right now. I don't see myself retiring anytime soon. Hopefully they keep me around. I enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy the people that I, work for and work with. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I think I feel really good about the company and where we're at right now. system side of our business. I feel really good about the game side of our business, kind of where we're headed. We have, I don't know if you picked up on it, but all of our gaming assets now are under one umbrella.
Okay.
Myself, Steve Sutherland, and Kimihiko Higachio, so we're on the board of directors. Our sister company in Australia, Konami Australia Pty Limited, Konami Gaming Inc. here in the U.S. acquired those assets last year. So really all of our gaming assets are no longer siloed. They're all being driven out of our building here in Las Vegas, which is important from an R&D standpoint. It's important from a recruitment standpoint. It's important from, process improvement standpoint, procurement standpoint when it comes to parts and game development and everything on that side. So I feel really good. I feel like we're set up to go on like a little bit of a growth spurt. As you know, for us to grow, the only way we grow is gain market share.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of casinos being built right now. There's not a lot of expansion going on. So for us to grow, we need better product and we need to gain more floor share. And I feel pretty good about where we're at right now.
Well, I just want to thank you.
Happy to be here.
Hey, number one,
Good to
for
see
being
you.
my friend, pal.
I'm sure the hair will grow back, buddy. Don't worry.
I know it will. So, hey, thank you guys, everybody, for joining us today. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And if anybody has any interest in joining and being on the pulpit here like Mr. Jingoli was, please email us at info@markertracks.com. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you.
That's a wrap for this episode of Betting on Success. If you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Stay tuned for more insights from gaming industry leaders. We'll see you next time.